week, my colleague showed me something that stopped me cold. She had used AI to draft a full training proposal, the kind that used to take her 3 days. It took her 40 minutes. It was good, really good. And I remember thinking 2 things at exactly the same time. That's incredible. And then, one breath later, what does that mean for me? If you've had that same double thought, excitement and dread living in the same moment, you're in the right place. Welcome to Book Takeaways for Professional Growth Podcast, where busy professionals listen to learn actionable insights from top books on decision-making, leadership, and focus for career growth. Because today's book doesn't just explain AI, it gives you a way to live with it, to work with it, to stop being unsettled by it and start using it as the most unusual, most powerful coworker you've ever had. The book is Co-Intelligence, Living and Working with AI by Ethan Mollick, a professor at the Wharton School of Business who spends every working day thinking about one thing. What does it actually mean to work alongside AI, and how do you do it well? 4 rules: honest, practical, and more human than you might expect. Are you ready? Let's go. Segment 1. The moment nobody prepared you for. The feeling nobody talks about. Can I be honest with you about something? The problem most professionals are dealing with right now isn't that AI is too hard to use. It's that nobody, not your manager, not your HR department, not the 3-hour AI awareness training your company ran in January, has told you something true and useful about how to actually integrate it into your work. So you're improvising alone. Maybe you've tried ChatGPT a few times, got mixed results, and quietly put it down. Maybe you've watched a colleague use it confidently and felt a pang of something, not quite jealousy, but adjacent to it. Maybe you've sat in a meeting where someone said, "We need to AI enable our workflows," and nodded while thinking, "I don't even know where to start." The frustration isn't about intelligence or tech skills, it's about the jagged frontier, a phrase Mollick uses to describe something genuinely strange about AI. AI isn't good at everything or bad at everything. It's brilliant at certain tasks and bafflingly weak at others, and the pattern makes almost no logical sense. It can write a moving eulogy, but struggle with a basic word count. It can synthesize 50 research papers in minutes, but confidently invent a fact that doesn't exist. This jagged, unpredictable quality is why you can't just learn AI the way you'd learn a software tool. You have to explore it, deliberately, repeatedly. That's the only way to find where it actually helps you. And that, the exploration, is exactly what Mollick's book is designed to guide. The takeaway: what the book teaches. Mollick's central argument is this: AI isn't a tool you pick up and put down. It's something closer to a new kind of coworker, one with extraordinary capabilities, strange blind spots, and no common sense whatsoever unless you provide it. He calls the result of human-AI collaboration co-intelligence, a form of intelligence that neither of you has alone. You bring experience, judgment, values, and the context of your specific situation. AI brings speed, memory, breadth, and a kind of tireless creativity that would exhaust any human. Together, the output can be something neither could produce separately. But the word together is doing a lot of work there, because co-intelligence only happens when you show up as an active, questioning, critical partner, not a passive recipient of whatever AI generates. Mollick frames this through 4 rules that he returns to throughout the book. Think of them less as instructions and more as a mindset, the habits of someone who has genuinely figured out how to work alongside AI without losing themselves in the process. Action: what you can do this week. Step 1. Write down 3 tasks you did this week that felt slow, tedious, or draining. Not your whole job. 3 specific, small tasks. That list is your personal jagged frontier map. Those are your starting experiments. Step 2, pick one, just one, and before the end of this week, try handing it to AI. Don't judge the result yet. That comes later. For now, just observe what it produces and notice your reaction. That reaction is data. Segment 2, the 4 rules. Rules for a relationship nobody has had before. Think about the last time you started working with someone new, a new colleague, a new manager, a new team. You didn't read a manual. You watched, you tested, you adjusted how you communicated based on how they responded. You learned, slowly, where they were reliable and where they weren't. You built a working relationship. Mollick argues that working with AI is similar, but sped up and with higher stakes because AI can seem far more confident and capable than it actually is in any given moment. His 4 rules are designed to help you build that working relationship intelligently, without either dismissing AI's real power or blindly trusting it. Rule 1, always invite AI to the table. This rule is about exploration before judgment. Before you decide AI can't help with something, try it. The jagged frontier means your assumptions about where AI is useful are probably wrong in at least a few places. A colleague of mine was certain AI couldn't help her with her most creative work, designing experiential learning workshops. She was right that AI couldn't design the workshop, but it could generate 30 possible metaphors for a concept she was struggling to explain in 90 seconds. That saved her an hour. She never would have found that if she hadn't tried. Inviting AI to the table means making it a default first step for more tasks than you currently think it belongs in. Rule 2, be the human in the loop. This is the rule about staying awake. AI will give you confident, fluent, well-structured answers that are sometimes wrong. Not obviously wrong, plausibly wrong, wrong in the specific fact, the out-of-date detail, the invented citation. The danger isn't that AI lies. The danger is that it sounds like it knows. And when something sounds authoritative, our critical instincts tend to relax. Being the human in the loop means staying in the editor's chair, not the passenger seat. It means checking the things that matter, questioning the claims you're about to pass on to someone else, asking AI directly, where might this be wrong? This connects directly to what we explored in the Prediction Machines episode. Human judgment doesn't disappear when AI handles the prediction. It becomes more important. Being the human in the loop is how you practice that judgment every single day. Rule 3, treat AI like a person, but specify what kind. This one sounds counterintuitive. AI isn't a person. It has no feelings, no interests, no stake in your success or failure. But Mollick's point is pragmatic, not philosophical. The way you get the best output from AI is to communicate with it the way you'd communicate with a thoughtful colleague, with context, with a clear role, with honest feedback when the first draft isn't right. Compare these 2 prompts. Write me a summary versus you are an executive coach helping a mid-level manager prepare for a difficult board presentation. Write me a 1-paragraph summary of this report that leads with the business risk, uses plain language, and takes no more than 30 seconds to read aloud. The second prompt gives AI a role, a context, a purpose, and a constraint. The output is almost always substantially better, not because AI got smarter, but because you got clearer about what you actually needed. Treating AI like a person means having a real conversation with it, pushing back, asking for a different approach, saying, that's too formal, or you missed the emotional tone here. The more you engage like a collaborator, the more useful it becomes. Rule 4, assume this is the worst AI you will ever use. This rule is easy to say and hard to internalize. Right now, in this moment, you are using the least capable AI that will exist for the rest of your career. The tools available today, already remarkable by any reasonable standard, will look primitive within a few years, which means two things. First, if you're frustrated by AI's current limitations, hold on. The frustrations you have today are temporary. The skills you build today are not. Second, if you wait until AI settles down before you start learning how to work with it, you will always be catching up. The professionals who build AI fluency now, messily, imperfectly, in the middle of real work, will be the ones who know what to do when the tools become dramatically more powerful. Start building the relationship while the stakes are still manageable. Action: what you can do this week. Step 1. Choose one task from your list and try each of Mollick's approaches. First with a vague prompt, then with a fully specified role, context, and constraint. Compare the outputs. The difference will teach you more than any tutorial. Step 2. After each AI interaction this week, ask it one question before you close the window. Where might this answer be wrong or incomplete? Write down what it says. You'll start to see patterns in where AI's blind spots live in your specific domain. Segment 3. Centaur or cyborg, designing your work. You get to choose how you work with AI. Here's something Mollick says that I find genuinely liberating. There is no single correct way to work with AI. He offers two models, and you can choose or move between them depending on the task. The first model he calls a centaur, the mythological creature that is half human, half horse. In this model, you divide the work cleanly. You do the parts that require your judgment, creativity, and human insight. AI does the parts that benefit from speed and scale. Clear separation, each doing what it does best. The second model is the cyborg, a more integrated approach where human and AI thinking are woven together throughout a task. You write a paragraph. AI suggests the next. You push back. It offers 3 alternatives. You pick one, revise it, hand it back. The work is genuinely collaborative, moment to moment. Neither is better. They serve different kinds of work. A centaur approach works well for tasks where you want full ownership of certain outputs, where the human voice, judgment, or accountability must be unambiguous. A cyborg approach works well for iterative, creative, or exploratory work where the back and forth generates something richer than either could create alone. Knowing which approach you're using and choosing it consciously is itself a form of professional judgment. It's one of the new skills of the AI era. The takeaway: co-intelligence versus prediction machines, two halves of the same picture. Prediction machines gave us the economic map. AI makes prediction cheap, which makes human judgment more valuable. It answers the question, what is happening and why? Co-intelligence gives us the daily practice, 4 rules and 2 working models for actually living in that new economy. It answers the question, given all that, what do I do on Monday morning? Together, they form something complete, the strategic picture and the personal playbook. Action: what you can do this week. Step 1. Look at your 3 tasks from segment 1. For each one, ask, is this centaur work or cyborg work? Am I handing it off cleanly, or am I iterating alongside AI? Naming the model you're using makes the collaboration more intentional. Step 2. Run one deliberate cyborg experiment. Pick a piece of writing, an email, a report section, a training outline, and work on it in genuine back and forth with AI for 15 minutes. Don't just accept the first output. Push, redirect, rebuild, see what emerges when you treat it like a real creative partnership. Segment 4. Your 1-week experiment. All of this collapses into one simple structure for this week. Choose one pane, not AI in general, not my whole workflow. one specific task that takes too long, feels unconfident, or drains you. Apply one rule. Invite AI to the table. Stay the human in the loop. Give it a clear role. Or simply remind yourself, this is the worst AI you'll ever use. Which means what you learn today compounds. Run one experiment. Small, 15 minutes, low stakes, no confidential data, just a real attempt to work alongside AI on something that matters to you. Then, at the end of the week, 3 questions. When did it help me most? When did it get something wrong, and how did I catch it? What would I do differently next time? That reflection is exactly what Mollick means by co-intelligence. You're not just using a tool, you're building a working relationship and getting better at it the same way you get better at any relationship, by paying attention, staying honest, and showing up consistently. Segment 5, Closing. Remember that moment at the beginning, my colleague's training proposal? 40 minutes, really good. The feeling that followed, that what does that mean for me, didn't go away entirely. I don't think it should. That feeling is useful. It's what keeps you curious, what keeps you learning, what keeps you from assuming the ground is stable when it's clearly still shifting. Co-intelligence doesn't ask you to stop feeling that. It asks you to do something with it. 4 rules to carry with you. 1. Always invite AI to the table. Explore before you judge. 2. Be the human in the loop. Stay in the editor's chair. Always. 3. Treat AI like a person, but specify what kind. Give it a role, a context, a purpose. 4. Assume this is the worst AI you'll ever use, which means starting now, imperfectly, is exactly right. The question isn't, will AI change my work? It already has. The question is, who is directing that change, AI or me? Mollick's answer, and mine, is that it can be you. It should be you, but only if you show up for the collaboration. I think you will. That's why you're here. Thanks for listening to Book Takeaways for Professional Growth podcast. If this episode resonated, share it with a colleague who's been quietly wondering what to do with AI in their own work. And if you want to go deeper, pick up Co-Intelligence, Living and Working with AI by Ethan Mollick. I'm your host, Sophia. See you next time. Keep growing.